If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 450 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as we are here for two special reasons. As we're going to, first of all, talk about the 2025 Eclipse Awards. Of course, they are next week, celebrating the wonderful achievements of horses and people of 2025. We're going to give our predictions of a few of the very important categories and also a very special guest coming on just in a few minutes that has a special connection to one of the horses that is nominated in one of the big categories. So don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss that. Plus, myself, Pete, and Paul are going to cover the late double at the Fairgrounds for Lecomte this Saturday. There are two grade threes that end the card. One of them with Kentucky Derby points implications on the line, a very interesting field. We are excited to talk about both those things tonight. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button, bottom right-hand side of the screen, notification bell, top right, smash that like button below the video player. We would greatly appreciate. Also, we don't receive a lot of comments below the video player. We have such a fantastic chat. A lot of people are involved in our live chat, but we do, of course, welcome any comments below the video player once the show is up on our YouTube channel. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. And, of course, follow us on X at HHH Racing Pod. Over 3,500 followers now on our X handle. Greatly appreciated. Of course, last thing, we also have a fantastic tip sheet, which has gotten off to a rip-roaring start. It's our Saturday regular tip sheet. And I'm going to have Pete and or Paul remind me later to bring up the Team HHH because you only have 1 week from today to sign up for that. So we'll talk about Team HHH a little bit later in the show. First, let me bring on my fantastic co-host. First, from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran. Gentlemen, happy Eclipse week, so to speak. How are we doing tonight?
Very good. Hi, Pete.
Hey, what's up, Paul? Hey, Howard. Here's a quick reminder. Bring up Team HHH.
I don't know what I would do without Pete, Paul.
I know,
I
like to keep things sharp. I like to keep
Team
things going,
HHH reminder.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Got it. Well, Pete, since you're going to give me a little crap, Paul, how's our NFL teams doing in the playoffs right now?
So far, so good.
Pete, how's your NFL team? Oh, sorry, Pete.
As you see the bubble on the screen. You know what, though? It's okay because it allowed us to then fire our offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, which was we weren't winning the Super Bowl anyway, so yeah. I will take that as a win. So all
right. Well, Pete's a Chargers fan. They gotta get healthy, Pete, obviously. And Paul, my Bears and your Patriots are looking good right now. I'll tell you what, our guest maybe, based on where he's from, he might have a little interest in John Harbaugh being hired as the new head coach of the New York Football Giants. I'm not sure who our guest is a football fan of, but we might get that information coming up here in just a second. Guys, we're first going to talk about the Eclipse Award. So we thank everyone for watching and listening. We're not going to go through all the Eclipse categories. We've done that before in the past. I think some of the categories are pretty much cut and dried, and we're just going to focus on a few of them. But Paul, I'm going to let you introduce our guest here in just 1 second because I believe he was on last year. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's been on before. The connection that he has with this particular horse is really fantastic. What a fantastic horse. Paul, I'm going to let you do the honors, and then you just let me know when you want me to bring him on.
Yeah, so I think certainly the favorite in the male sprint category is Bookham Dano. And, if you want to talk about a horse that it's impossible to dislike, 4-year-old horse who's already run 16 times, has run in Saudi Arabia, and, bought by 6 guys from New Jersey, a New Jersey bred, by the way. I think it's safe to say he's going to go down as one of the most successful New Jersey breds of all time. 6 guys from New Jersey, for relatively short money, and he has taken them on a ride of a lifetime. They're great guys. I'm I'm kind of the house correspondent for Bookham Dano. I've covered several of his wins at Saratoga, including 2 last year, as you know. Because they run the Belmont there, he had the opportunity to win 3 graded stakes at Saratoga the same year. A reverse Lawrence Welk, a 3, a 2, and a 1. People old enough will get that. Pete, maybe you're not old enough.
Yeah, I get it. That probably alienated about 85% of. Actually, no, our audience probably 85% probably got it.
And that's why I'm here, Pete. But anyway, I think he wins the sprint. You know, there's a healthy discussion. Of course, he didn't run in the Breeders' Cup. It's been talked about. We'll talk to Jay. But anyway, one of the I guess you'd call managing partner or the lead partner in Atlantic 6 is from Jersey, Pete, Jay Briccione. Good evening, Jay.
What's up, Jay? How are you, my friend?
Very good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
Welcome, Jay. Great to have you on again from Atlantic 6 Racing. Bookham Dano, what a year he's had. We'll talk about his year a little bit here, Jay. I've got the PPs in front of me. Just coincidentally, as Paul knows, right above Bookham Dano, only because it's an alphabetical order with the Eclipse Awards, your sort of nemesis in this award category, Ben Tornado, is right above you, Jay. Just coincidentally, and it's only alphabetical, so we're not saying he's better than Bookham Dano. I just want to make that very clear. But Paul, I'm going to let you fire away and ask the first question. And as you do that, Paul, I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the PPs right now. And actually, last thing, Paul, who is the 3rd final nominee in the sprint category? By the way, if you don't know, Paul Halloran, ladies and gentlemen, is an Eclipse voter as well. And Paul, feel free to give your. I believe you did it already, maybe through X or some other avenue. I don't recall.
I don't publish the whole ballot like most.
Okay, well, if you want to, Paul, certainly you don't have to. But if you want to give your opinions on each or who you vote for, that's fine. Nisos, by the way, the 3rd choice. Let's bring it up right now here, Paul. I'll let you fire away. Whoops, sorry about that, everyone. Let me try one more screen. I apologize, Jay, for that. Here we go. I'll bring it on right now, and I'll let you ask the first question. I'll go full screen, Paul. Here's Ben Tornado and, of course, Bookham Dano.
Yeah, I would just say, Jay, and we talked about this last week, but what are you guys expecting going into this? Do you think you're going to win? And if you were a voter, objectively, would you be voting for Bookham Dano?
Well, I think, we've talked to a number of writers, and I think it's going to be close. I think there's that philosophical difference that, some people put all the weight in the Breeders' Cup. And, we ran against Ben Tornado in Saudi Arabia, and Jose D'Angelo's done a great job with him, obviously, but it took him a while to get back to the races. So if you're a voter that's going to look at that race and say that dictates who the champion is, I can understand that. But I think, my view, it's what you've done through the course of the year, and Dano has been as consistent as we could have ever possibly hoped. And I think, from a Breeders' Cup standpoint, if we had known the kind of horse that we had starting the season, maybe we would have tried to work backwards from the Breeders' Cup. But quite honestly, we're happy with, we were ecstatic as to the kind of horse that we had. And after the Virginia race, while it was a good race, it was a 3-horse field. And then I think, Churchill Downs was such a horrible racetrack, but that was probably as good a sprint field as there was. And we made the lead inside the 16th ball. Like I said, it just poured that day. That track was horrible. He'll run on anything. And that field was absolutely incredible. And to get beat 3/4 of the length in that race, I think that was a tougher field than the Breeders' Cup, quite honestly.
Jay, I was there that day at this year's Kentucky Derby, and I'm not saying this because you're on the screen. I played in a contest, and I had a large double and win bet on your horse. I loved your horse going to this race. He didn't really break my heart because he was running against absolute monsters, Jay. I couldn't believe I was getting almost 8-1. I'm sure you guys went to the windows that day as well. and he ran absolutely huge. But after that, he strung 3 races in a row. I don't mean to cut you short of your explanation, but ran in the True North grade 3, won the Vanderbilt grade 2, and I thought the Forgo was outstanding. And I want to talk about Paco Lopez as well, who, as you know, has had some issues in the past and gets a little bit of crap from some people. I got to tell you what, love him or hate him, Paco Lopez has ridden Bookham Dano unbelievably this year. I got to tip my cap to Paco because he just gives his horse a great ride every single time, Jay.
I couldn't agree with you more. And this is a woulda, coulda, shoulda game, right? Whether you're a gambler or an owner. And quite honestly, Dano could have won the Saudi Derby. He could have won the Nashua, and he should have won the Perryville. So as good as his record is, I mean, he could have 3 more wins and another $1 million in earnings, basically. But having said that, I agree 100%. When Paco, we're the little guys, so it's hard to believe that if you have a possible Eclipse Award winner, you could get spun in a graded stake race. But you can, and that was always kind of a worry of ours, and it happened last year at Saratoga. But once Paco came aboard, that was one issue that we didn't have to worry about anymore. And I don't know how I know he warms them up a lot, and Paco does his figure eights and things like that, and gets them into the race very, very quickly. And I think he's just the I don't know what the word is for it, but his relationship with the horse is incredible. Because if you remember, as a late 3-year-old, he was running, or his 4-year-old, no, late 3-year-old, he was coming from way off the pace. From the Perryville, he was way out of it. Yeah. The Cigar Mile, he was way, and we're wondering, here's a horse that, different class, he early on, he wasn't running against the class horse as he is now, but he did show quite a bit of speed, and all of a sudden that speed was gone. And now Paco puts him into the race very quickly, and he still has, a run, left for the stretch. And I think Derek always says he wants somebody to run at. He wants to be on the outside. I'll say one thing about that. You mentioned the Churchill race. I went back and watched it a couple of times. He got his hind end knocked out from underneath him at the start.
A little bit, yeah.
And then I think Paco hesitated at the top of the stretch to whether to go, think something would open up inside or try to stay outside. And having said that, he only got me 3/4 of a length against 2 horses. Well, Mind Frame, how good was Mind Frame? And Nisos won the Breeders' Cup Mile. Banishing is in there.
Oh yeah. That you can argue that was the race of the year, literally. Other than the Classic, I think you can actually make that argument.
Other than the Classic, but I think a lot of people have said that too. A lot of people that watched that race, because there were 5 horses at the wire within a length.
It was amazing. So I'm going to let Pete or Paul answer the next question in a moment. But obviously, he can run on fast. He can run on slop. Matt Miller at the bottom of the screen. Jay, sorry that your face is now covered up, but there's a comment, one of our great friends and viewers of the show. 5 races, 4 wins, lost by neck to Mind Frame, 1 grade 1, just like Ben Tornado, but Ben Tornado's was in the Breeders' Cup. For him, the 4 winning races tips the scales for Dano. Next question, that's an opinion from Matt Miller, who, by the way, is an excellent contest player, Jay, and knows horse racing. Pete or Paul, you guys can either one of you take next question for Jay. And we welcome questions in the chat.
I hope Matt is right, first of all.
Yeah, Matt's usually right, Jay. So you're in good hands there.
Well, I'll buy him a drink somewhere.
Okay.
I do have one question, actually. What was your thoughts, Jay, just sitting back watching the Breeders' Cup, knowing that you could have had a horse that either could have won or just could have been in such a sort of a monumental matchup with another great sprinter? Where you don't always see like 2 giants going head to head, and you could have saw that this year. So what was your thoughts just sort of watching it?
Well, I think we would have liked to run in the Breeders' Cup, but as I said, I think had we, and I don't mean it like we didn't know we had a good horse. It's just, did we know we had a Breeders' Cup horse at the start of the year? And I always like err to the conservative kind of thing. But watching the race, I think, I think it would have been great. It would have been great for the sport. It would have been great for the fans. It would have been great for, for us. I think, Ben Tornado did a great job. I mean, he ran a great race. I think, when I look at it objectively, that's kind of a speed favoring track. Not much was coming from off the pace that day. It would have been, I know we would have been well placed, but it would have been a tough race for us. I think the bigger thing was coming out of the Vanderbilt. We ran our best race on the sheets. We ran a -4, I think that was. And that's what Cody's Wish ran, in that race. So we figure we're going to regret. That was his career top. So, the thought is you're always going to regress when you run a career top. And he ran a -3/4 in the forego, and yet he still won. So he won a grade 1, kind of regressing. So had he run his top in the Breeders' Cup, I think he wins the race. You're running. That's one of the other things about the Eclipse. You're running a pretty tough campaign, and when you're sprinting, it does take its toll on you.
Yeah.
And then you're at the end of the year. Here goes November, so you're in training. He was in training since January, so you're catching a couple of fresh horses when you've been through a pretty tough campaign. So that's why I think, the award should recognize the horse that, was the champion throughout the year. But, that's my thinking. I'm sure everybody obviously doesn't think that way, but,
Yeah. Well, Jay, I'll give my strong opinion at the end, but I tend to agree with you. I'll just leave it at that. Paul, let's ask one more question for Jay, and we have other categories to get to, but of course, we really appreciate Jay coming on and talking about really one of the most popular and horses and wonderful stories of 2025. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, Jay, and of course, I've lived this with you guys to some degree, but just talk about, what this horse has meant to, as I said, 6 guys from Jersey who obviously, I guess, never dreamed that they'd be knocking off graded stakes at Saratoga like they were claiming races at Monmouth.
Well, you know what? I can say it's a dream come true. When you get involved in horses and you buy horses, you're always hoping, hey, until he runs, maybe this could be the one. Well, this one was the one. However, the thought of us being in the running for an Eclipse Award, I can say never, ever entered in my dreams, and I don't think anybody's dreams. It's just been just a wonderful experience, and to do it with friends and family, makes it even more, special. And he's really cool horse to be around. The whole Jersey bred part of it. Like you said, the fan base, that Mark runs the horse on race days. He comes in from Panama, and he said, like, when I walked this horse down the stretch at Saratoga, he said the people that are, lined up, cheering for him, I'm sure the name does, has something to do with it, kind of the catchy name. But it really, like I said, he's a feel-good story in a sport that, we have a lot of them, but we don't really publicize them. And I think he's gotten, a good amount of publicity everywhere but New Jersey, to be quite honest with you. So it's, like I said, it's exciting. It's a dream of a lifetime. And it's one that we, at this stage of our lives, we probably, and I've told Paul this, we were looking to buy a horse that would go through his Jersey bred conditions, maybe compete in Jersey bred stakes kind of thing. And to be at the level that we're at,
Yeah.
in the running for an Eclipse Award is like, doesn't get any better than that.
It's really cool. Jay, last quick question. We'll let you go. What's the plan going forward? I hear you're going in the Middle East. Give the fans briefly an overview of what the plan is, at least early 2026.
You know what? So he's been off October, November, December, probably started back, 3 weeks ago or so. So I think the Mideast is probably out. Now, we did nominate for the Dubai race, just in case. But I think if the Breeders' Cup, I think what we would like to do this year now is to try to work backwards from the Breeders' Cup once we get an initial race in, which probably is what we would have done last year. Running those 3 races over the course of the summer, he ran probably pretty much since Churchill 5 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 weeks, and 5 weeks. So I mean, that was ambitious. Pretty much why no one probably has done it. Also, the fact that obviously the one race is usually run at Belmont. So I think probably look at the same amount of races starting. I would say, if I had to guess now, I'd say probably Keeneland, that Commonwealth race at Keeneland, and maybe, something in between, probably one race at Saratoga, maybe one race in the fall, and then, hopefully the Breeders' Cup if he, holds up and runs the way he has run. Now I did talk to Joe. He's at Joe Hennessy's in Ocala. And he said he's doing great. And he said, I'll tell you this, he's gotten a lot stronger. So as a 5-year-old, that's what you would hope for. So we'll see where we got our fingers crossed, and we'll see where we go. But that's kind of the, hopefully 5 races and wind up at back at Keeneland.
Terrific. Well, Jay, we really appreciate you coming on. You're welcome to come on the HHH Racing Podcast anytime. Please spread the word amongst your folks about our pod. We'll be following Bookham Dano in 2026. We look forward to seeing him winning this year's Breeders' Cup Sprint in November. Jay, take care. Thanks for coming on the show. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And I always tell everybody to tune in and listen. You guys are the greatest. So
awesome. Thanks a lot, Jay. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Have a good night.
All righty. Wow. Fantastic job. What an ownership group, and what a year they've had. Looks like they're going to be pretty patient with him, which I understand. He's bigger and stronger than last year. Ooh. Look out. Look out, Ben Tornado. you got something that's going to be knocking on your door. All right, guys. Let's talk very quickly about some other categories. We're just going to roll through them very quickly. I've chosen a few guys that you and I, we've talked about off air. I'm going to bring on screen. These are ones that are just more debatable, more controversial. Actually, why am I burying the lead? Who do you think should win, and who do you think will win the Breeders' Cup male sprinters, Pete?
I think Bookham Dano will win a tight race. I would actually vote for Ben Tornado personally.
Interesting, Paul, how you didn't say that in front of Jay.
He's right. He's right by. He's still there.
Jay. Oh wait, we lost Jay. Wait. Now he's putting up. He's putting up an I. Wait. Oh no, I thought he's putting up an I hate you sign. No, he's not.
Hey, I'm a.
We love Jay.
I'm a Jersey Italian. I would love Bookham Dano, but I think I would in a narrow.
Okay.
But I think it's about as close as it's about as close of a race as you can get. Like, it's not manufactured competition. I think.
No.
I think you can make really great arguments both ways. I actually think Nisos could be a contender if he would have sprinted more.
Interesting.
During the year, because I think he's just as good. So I think it's a fantastic category this year.
Paul, who did you vote for? Who do you think will win it?
Paul, you're on mute, by the way.
You're on mute, my friend.
I voted in order: Bookham Dano, Ben Tornado, and Patch Adams. And I think Bookham Dano is going to win. I really do think he should win. And I'm not, I watched the races with Jay. I've covered the horse several times. I've seen him work in the morning. So you might say I'm not 100% objective, but I loved Ben Tornado in the sprint, and, he did all, he only ran twice. He won both, but I think 5 starts versus 2 and winning the 3 graded stakes at Saratoga. Again, if you vote for Ben Tornado, you're saying the Breeders' Cup holds more weight than a body of work. But I agree with Pete. I think it'll be close, but I think he's going to. I hope he wins because they have 2 tables where the Jersey people going down to the Eclipse, and those seats are not cheap. I said to Jay, I said, you guys are spending the purse money. Those are not cheap seats.
Guys, I have a very strong opinion about this, and I think you guys know my answer because we've talked about this in previous years. If people want to just say, well, whoever wins the Breeders' Cup Sprint wins the Eclipse, then put the damn Eclipse Awards on the table in the winner's circle of the Breeders' Cup races and just hand it to people right there. Look, I love Ben Tornado, and I singled him, and I made a big play in the contest, Paul. We talked about it in the BC, and I love the horse. He had 1 race basically all year. He had 1 easy prep in an ungraded stake at Churchill, and he won 1 race. I understand it was the Breeders' Cup. I get it. Bookham Dano pretty much danced every dance. I wish he went to the Breeders' Cup. I know Jay is still listening in the background. I respect them. I don't own that horse. I have no right to say what they should do with the horse. They still could have run him the Breeders' Cup. It was 2.5 months, guys. I strongly disagree with them skipping the Breeders' Cup, partially for this reason, this discussion right now. But that's okay. That's up to them. His body of work, guys, is just better than Ben Tornado. Ben Tornado won 1 race, basically, and Bookham Danner won several graded stakes and some very high-quality ones and finished by a neck in, you could argue, the toughest sprint race of the year. And guess what? Ben Tornado wasn't in that race either, guys, right? So, look, I feel very strongly this is going to be a theme throughout the next 20 minutes as we go through these races. Yes, the Breeders' Cup should be weighed more, but it shouldn't be the end-all, be-all. Last time, I think a good for me, guys, and we'll move on. To me, I was trying to think what's a good comparison. Last time I checked, the Heisman Trophy is given before the NCAA playoffs. Is it not? I mean, so now you could argue, well, they would give it this year anyway to the Indiana quarterback. I get it, but look, it's a year-long award, and but Paul, correct if I'm wrong. This is going to come up in the next few categories. You just have to have 1 North American start, correct? That's correct. The what's the word? That's the criteria. That's the criteria, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope it's Bookham Dano. It should be Bookham Dano. I have a weird feeling they're going to give it to Ben Tornado, but I would disagree. Go ahead, Paul.
Just 2 quick things. One, and I told Jay this, you talked about Paco, and I agree with everything you said about how Paco has ridden this horse. And I told this to Jay, and I love Derek Ryan. Derek Ryan, major kudos for getting this horse here.
Yeah.
Him saying that Paco being suspended even was a 1% reason they didn't go to the Breeders' Cup is the single dumbest thing I've ever heard a trainer say. No. And trust me, I've heard some. But 2, one thing I would say, we talk a lot about the dreaded DFS on this show, right? Derby fever syndrome. And we've seen countless number of horses who they never are the same. These are people who resisted that. They ran second to Forever Young in the Saudi Derby and very easily could have stayed on the Kentucky Derby trail. Yes. And you could make a very cogent argument that this horse would not be the sprinter he is and the horse he is now if they had been bitten by that Derby fever syndrome. So
no doubt.
In that vein, it might shed just a little light on them being willing to skip something as important as the Breeders' Cup. They were willing to not go to the Derby.
Yes. Tupelo Honey. I don't think we've seen you in the chat. What's up, Tupelo? Dano deserves it. Nisos doesn't belong in the conversation. Woo. Well, I guess Paul partially agrees because he had Patch Adams above Nisos. Interesting. Tupelo, thanks. We'd love to hear your opinion, of course, in the live chat. All right, guys, let's move on. Next one is 2-year-old fillies. And this is interesting, guys, because it's almost always, as I just talked about, given to the 2-year-old juvenile filly dirt champion. But there's a lot of buzz this year that it might not. There's Super Corridora, who won the juvenile fillies. And honestly, guys, it was not a strong crop. She did win it. She won with an 84 buyer, but her first 2 races were, actually her second race was okay. But I mean, broke her maiden and then won the grade 1, was 2 for 4. The other horse, and Paul, remind me, who's the third? I know Cypher is the second. Who was the third?
Explorer.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Explorer is another one who actually races or was supposed to race last weekend or did. I'm drawing a blank now.
No,
anyway. It was
she
scratched,
was
right?
to, I thought. Did she scratch? I think
she scratched. I think she scratched.
Okay, I can't remember.
I think so. Anyway, Explorer, finished second. I mean, I can make an argument. Actually, I think there is a very strong argument. Explorer should get it in front of Super Corridor, frankly. I mean, lost to Super Corridor by 3/4, but before that, easily won the Grade 2 Oakleaf, came in second in the Grade 1 Del Mar Debutante. I mean, again, I just...
She did win, by the way, Howard. She ran on the 10th at Santa Anita in the Santa.
Oh, I'm sorry. She
Santa
won that
Inez.
race. Okay,
Yeah,
bad.
I totally blanked on that. But yeah,
So did I. Anyway, I think you can make a strong argument. Explorer deserves it more. I know Super Corridor being the Breeders' Cup, I understand, but it's the body of work. Now, Sci-Fair has gotten a lot of love and respect, Paul. Who were your top three? And let's talk about Sci-Fair.
My top three in order were Sci-Fair, Super Corridor, and Explorer.
Talk about Sci-Fair, Paul.
Well, Sci-Fair, of course, is a turf horse, and that, that's doesn't mean. I mean, she's eligible for the award. It's 2-year-old filly. It's not 2-year-old dirt filly. She was missed being undefeated by a neck in a race that she just got nailed on the wire at Saratoga. She took the lead and got nailed on the wire. She was a very good-looking winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. And I think, Howard, I agree with you that I think you can make a case for Explorer over Super Corridora. And thinking that way, that led me to Sci-Fair. If we can't even decide between those two, I really think Sci-Fair deserves the award.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's, anything you lose sleep over if one of those other two gets it, but I'd say my vote was a pretty solid Sci-Fair vote.
And Pete, the fact that she beat boys, I don't know if you would take that into consideration or others would in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Sprint. I mean, Super Corridor won a Breeders' Cup race also, but the fact that she did against the boys, that gave her a little more of a push. And I hope she gets it because, like Paul said, it's not the best dirt 2-year-old in the country. It's 2-year-olds. And I think some of these turf horses, some of Chad's good, like male turf horses, they get overlooked, Pete, because everyone just goes to the juvenile and juvenile fillies on dirt and just automatically gives it to those horses. I don't think that's right either.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of conversation going into the sort of the nominations where it was, if people don't have Sci-Fair in their top three, then it's a disservice because she clearly was. So I think her getting there sort of silenced at least a lot of that she's not getting completely shortchanged. But I agree. I hate to sound like a fence sitter again, but I think this one there's no standout. I think you can make a case for any of the three. I would probably lean Sci-Fair for that same reason. I think Explorer and Super Corridor are sort of split a bit. And like, would you even take into account, the track bias a little bit where Super Corridor got on the lead and was able to, carry the speed that was carrying, and maybe that's the reason. I mean, when you're nitpicking between razor thin decisions, you have to take, like you said, does the beating the boys matter? I think it does. Yes. If you're nitpicking between razor thin decisions, I think everything counts. You seem to agree a lot, Paul.
I think the track condition is definitely a factor. And, the way this works, people should know the only vote that matters is your first place vote. There's no point system that says, 5-3-1. So the winner of the Eclipse is the most first place votes. They have to have 3 finalists because they need to sell tables to those people too, right? But I will say this, Pete, and it doesn't matter. If anyone didn't put Sci-Fair in their top 3, they should not vote again.
Yeah,
I mean that's not. You can say,
but I think that was
she doesn't
the
deserve
discussion,
it,
right? Yeah, I think that
after
was
those other 2, there is no one that. I mean, this horse, as I said, is a neck from being undefeated. And I do, Pete. You bring up a great point. I think beating the boys is a very worthwhile point.
I agree.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, those tables at the breakers ain't going to pay for themselves. I'll tell you that.
That's what I hear, Howard. That's the one regret I have. That's the one stop on the Cody's Wish Tour in 23 that I didn't make. It was a long year, and the Breeders' Cup was so emotional. But
Paul, you're a man of the people. That's too posh for you. That's too,
Yeah, but being in the room when my friend Kylie announced the winner would have. I'm really sorry I missed that.
That is true. Let's move on, guys.
I was with you guys to have the live interview with Kelly.
Yeah, they were here, so it was almost like being
there.
There
you go.
And we didn't have to pay anything, Paul. That makes it
correct.
Older dirt male. Paul, who are the top
Oof.
3 for the older dirt male? And I've seen some very interesting things. In fact, someone put something on Twitter today that I thought was, well, shockingly on horse racing Twitter, completely asinine. I'll hold off on that comment. But anyway, you can look it up for yourself. Who are the final 3 for the older dirt male? I know one of them is my buddy Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone, I'm looking at because I think one of my 3 didn't make the final.
It's Forever Young, Nisos. And
Yeah,
Sierra
Forever Young.
Leone.
Yeah, I voted for well, I'll tell you when you ask. I had Mindframe second, who did not make the finals.
Mindframe and Fierceness, neither one of them made the final 3. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
of
is
course,
correct.
people can still vote for them, though, Paul. I just want to make that clear.
Correct.
But,
That is 100%.
they have to write them in or whatever.
What was
All
your
right.
order, Paul? Did you say? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
you
my
were-
order-
He didn't give his top 3. Go ahead. What were your?
Yeah,
who'd you vote for?
I did. I'll be honest with you. This for me was by far the most difficult category. And unlike Howard, I'm really not a big Sierra Leone fan because I hold a grudge. I had Sierra Leone first, Mindframe, and Nisos. And before everyone goes bananas, yes, I am one of the voters. Unless there are no good alternatives, I am not voting for a horse who ran once in North America. Now, last year in the male turf, it is at least occasional that there are no good alternatives, and last year was one of those times. This is not one of those times. Fierceness is qualified. We mentioned those horses that didn't make it. So, do I think Forever Young's great? Yeah, but that's why he didn't appear in my top 3. I'm not voting for a horse who ran once here with viable alternatives. And
yeah, and I think Paul just made a really important point. So I want to make this clear publicly. I agree that in general, I would very rarely vote for a horse, Pete and Paul, that has one start in this country. However, when it comes to some of the turf categories, like Paul just mentioned,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, some of the American turf runners are just not deserving of the award. Forever Young, if you believe that he should win it, Pete, is deserving. Now, I personally don't think he should win it for the simple fact that he only had one run in this country. Granted, it was an amazing run, but there are other very nice alternatives in this category, in my opinion. But I think Forever Young is going to get a lot of support in this category, Pete, a little bit because what you talked about before with like the Super Corridor Explorer, like they're going to split the vote, sort of like you see in our political races. Forever Young, is going to have votes split amongst Mindframe and Sierra and Fierceness, and he might just end up getting it because of that. I personally don't think he should get it. He is one of the best horses in the world. There's no doubt about it. But that's not the same thing as winning the United States Eclipse Award for 2025. People need to decipher the two, in my opinion, Pete. What say you?
So I am, like Paul, 100% anti-voting for anyone who only ran the one race. But so I always am against, like, again, like, unless it's like, hey, I don't want to give the Eclipse to some garbage turf horse just because they happen to be the best American out of a really bad crop. But in this case, I actually would vote for Forever Young. And so I would sort of break my rule here. I just think he has the best case. And I look at it, and this is sort of cheating the logic a bit, but he almost doesn't feel fully like a foreign horse just because we've seen him multiple times. And even the races he's run overseas are sort of, quote unquote, mainstream sort of overseas races where we see other American contingents running.
But those are not, like Paul just said in the chat, Pete, they're not supposed to count for this.
I get it, they're not supposed to count, but I'm saying to me, I still consider him closer to an American horse than
that's fair.
Any other horse who came over. And so again, I'm completely breaking my normal logic.
Right.
I don't think Sierra Leone deserves it, and I don't think Nisos deserves it in the least. I would have given Mindframe above those two, in all honesty, or at least neck and neck with those two.
Yeah.
So
Mindframe beat Sierra Leone at the Stephen Foster. I was there that day in person. It was a small field, and I thought, again, we can nitpick all day. I mean, I thought it was a very slow pace. Mindframe got the perfect trip. Sierra Leone ran huge and lost, but he lost.
He was bad in the Breeders' Cup, and that's no good. That hurts him.
Right. Mindframe was bad, and then the Jockey Club debacle.
Not finishing the Jockey Club, that just hurts him. I mean, because now you haven't
had
a good race since June.
But it's
basically.
like, to me, the mind frame argument is lost in the Breeders' Cup. I mean,
I agree.
it's the biggest race of the year.
Well, I've
and
seen people say,
similar,
well, he
similar.
doesn't want 1.25 miles. I'm like, well, then, that's tough shit. I
Well,
mean,
then they
my
shouldn't
language.
have, you know,
Yeah.
this is my
the
fiercest
excuse.
argument in the Derby, right? Remember, Verpoli was on and won fiercest win 3 over the year. Was it last year, right? Last year, right?
Yeah.
On this show, Paul, in the biggest time, the biggest moment, he flopped in the Derby. I mean, that's the argument for Sierra Leone. And honestly, I want to be very honest. I don't know who I'd vote for. I don't want to make a statement because I have to look at it real carefully. I know we're looking at it now, but we're live. I don't have time to go through it. The argument with Sierra Leone for Sierra Leone is, yes, he only won the Whitney, and that was the only one he won. But guys, he finished second 3 times, and he basically danced every single dance. I know he didn't do well in New Orleans, but that was his first race of the year, and it was a prep, and he still ran a 103 buyer. He ran 104 buyers plus after that, and barely lost in 3 races in the toughest competition every single time, guys, and did win the Whitney, which, Paul, then you'd agree is the biggest handicap race of the year outside of the Breeders' Cup. Now, if you're a fan of fierceness, let me just go to him real quick. Again, you can make an argument for him if you want. He had 2 wins. The Pacific Classic was a very weak Pacific Classic. Let's just be honest about it, although he did it well. And then he won a Grade 2 Ali Shiba, which he did well. He did run in Grade 1s, but he lost to Sierra Leone in the Classic, and he lost to Raging Torrent in the Met Miles, a very good horse. He finished 5th in the Whitney, so he lost to Sierra Leone twice, guys. I mean, the argument you want to say fiercest deserves it over Sierra Leone, I'm sorry. And I'm not saying Sierra Leone should win the whole thing. I'm just saying, I suppose you can make a better argument for mind frame, Paul. I think you agree with that, right?
I voted mind frame second. I mean, fierceness was awful in the Whitney if we're looking at that particular race.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why Forever Young might win this is I think there's a feeling he should get something, and I don't think that's unreasonable. Yeah. And anyone who voted him for Horse of the Year should also not vote again, because that should be unanimous.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
I said anyone who voted for Forever Young for Horse of the Year, not in this category, should be expelled, because we do have a horse who ran very, very well in this country several times.
Well, but we were not planning on talking about. Sorry, Pete, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, for Horse of the Year, do you vote for just one horse, Paul, or do you still vote for a top 3?
You still vote for top 3, but it's the same. I believe it's the same. The first place Howard. Votes count. But I think I will say this. I think there's some validity if you want to say, Forever. I know it's on this year, but Forever Young has now come over here 2 years in a row and run well and won the Classic this year, and deserves something. And he's not going to get Horse of the Year. And this category, you can make such good cases against all these other horses, even though you can make good cases for them. Then I think that's reasonable, and I actually think that's why he will win this category.
Well, let me piggyback, and we need to move on, guys, because we need to handicap 2 races too. We got to talk about jockeys and trainers. Paul, I know. Look, everyone knows Paul's got a deep connection with Mott and Alvarado and Sovereignty and Godolphin, and we like them too. Paul, I could not agree with you more. If anyone has Forever Young over Sovereignty, based on what Sovereignty did this year for our Horse of the Year, you know what? Take your disappointment that he didn't run in the Preakness and go shove it up your ass. Go take it somewhere else, because it is completely irresponsible, asinine, and ridiculous. And if people want to come at me later on X or even right now, that's fine. Sovereignty is the Horse of the Year. End of discussion. We love Forever Young. You want to give something to Forever Young, Pete and Paul, give him older male. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not going to argue about it. I totally agree with you, Paul, on that. Pete, you don't have to agree with that, but do you agree? Who was your Horse of the Year?
Oh yeah, no, is that a thing? I mean, is there a lot of groundswell for Forever Young? I
don't know about groundswell, but I've heard some people think. People put it out there that they're voting for Forever Young.
Okay,
Paul, I've seen
that enough.
Oh, I've seen ballots. Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. Though, it's not going to happen, but people are doing it.
I do think that would be a valid reason to vote for Forever Young in this category if you think he should get something.
For older male. Yeah, exactly. I agree.
I'm not voting him for the reason I said. He's a one-start horse with viable alternatives. So someone
Yeah.
might say, well, those alternatives aren't that viable.
Paul, who are the top three? Who are the three trainers that are nominated for the category? And tell us who you voted for, please.
Well, this is kind of funny. The trainers final are Cox, Mott, and Chad, right, Pete? Am I right
Yes.
about that?
Yep, you were right.
And I voted
Okay.
for Pletcher. Shows you what
Really?
I know.
Okay.
Well, again,
Why? Explain.
It's a tough category. I looked at his success in graded stakes overall. I got to get to the trainer page here and my trusty.
Well, I'd like to know, Paul, because it's not on the
And
screen.
I have a lot of votes. Pletcher is first in grade 1 wins of that group. And look at, I mean, obviously, I'm voting with my head and not my heart. I mean, Mott trained Cody's Wish. I'm not looking for Bill not to get it. I looked at per start earnings. Cox is just ahead of Pletcher by a couple of $1,000. Overall win percentage, Cox is ahead. So you make a good case for him. I kind of think, based on what I've seen online, I think Mott might get it.
Really?
But I voted
No.
Pletcher in order. I voted Pletcher, Cox, Mott.
The one thing about this category, Pete, that I think needs to be discussed at least for a minute, and same with the jockeys, is the earnings, because the earnings are so inflated in Kentucky right now, and they're pretty good in New York too, but they're really inflated in Kentucky, and they're obviously much lower in California. I mean, how much do you punish a jockey and trainer for running at a very high level place, but just doesn't have the same earnings? I mean, to me, or Florida for that matter, I mean, to me, earnings is definitely a factor, but for my personal opinion, it's win percentage and it's grade ones. That's what I would look at more than earnings, for the point that I just made. Because, for example, Kentucky, they're running Kentucky Downs, for God's sakes. I know it's only 2 weeks, Pete. Their main races are like 140, and in California, they're like 60. I mean, I know it's only 2 weeks, but even in Churchill and these other great places, I mean, God love them. Turfway, you got main race for 110, and the rest of the country, generally speaking, except for Saratoga, is like 50 to 80. So, yes, Cox is going to have higher earnings because he's a great trainer, but also, in fairness, partially because he's based in Kentucky.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of different factors. I think you can look at these a bunch of different ways. One thing I look at is on Equibase, it does a good job of showing you sort of the top horses. And if I look, it just wasn't a great year, in all honesty, for like one trainer where they just had, like, if you look at Cox, who's his number one earner is Hit Show. Hit Show went overseas and won, the biggest race. And he's clearly not one of the best horses, but he was that day. But his other ones, Fione, Good Cheer, First Mission, Patch Adams, like really good horses, but not great horses. And then if you look at, when I look at Mott, see, I'm totally against Mott winning. He has one horse that was top notch and he's a great trainer, but he didn't have a complete year to me. And then if you look at Chad Brown, he's got Sierra Leone. And then he has also just a bunch of really, really good horse, Spirit of St. Louis, Raging Sea, Zulu Kingdom, really good horses, but not like a bunch of Eclipse Award finalists in his horses. So I think you can probably go a bunch of different ways. I think I would probably go Chad Brown out of the three that we have the choice for. But I do think Pletcher was sort of I think if Mott having sovereignty outweighed, I think the larger success of Pletcher, Paul, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that for this particular year.
I agree top to bottom, but Mott did have another Breeders' Cup winner. He did
actually. Yeah, he did have two.
The guy I voted for didn't make the final three. So what the hell do I know?
But I think isn't this another year where it's not like a super standout? I mean, and that's I think where it gets. You're going to have different ballots.
Honestly, if sovereignty didn't get hurt, I think this category would be a little more cut and dried based on what would have happened in the Breeders'
Well, obviously,
Cup.
if he wins the Preakness, he almost gets it by.
Well, and there's, by the way, there's
or the Breeders' Cup Classic. You could argue that's what you meant, Paul, right?
That's out there, by the way. And I saw a ballot. People like to put their ballots online. I saved mine for the HHH Racing podcast. I saw a ballot that had a blank for owner, and the alleged reporter's reasoning was that Godolphin didn't run sovereignty in the Preakness.
See, that's
if you want to talk about needing a proctologist to remove your cranium, okay,
Automatic revocation. Revoke. Out.
It's insane.
Stupid.
I mean, so that's my point.
Anyway.
But there is some anti-Mott sentiment out there for the Preakness. That's what I was getting.
Yeah, I get it.
No, like I say, I voted him third, but I think it's a wide open category. I will not be surprised if any of those three win. And based on what I've seen online, I think Mott's might win.
Okay. Final three for the jockey, Paul. The three. I'm not going to show the stats, guys, because we have literally 2 minutes to talk about this. The final three in the jockey,
Flavian
and then we will. I will right now. I'll say I think Flavian deserves it. I hope he
Pratt,
wins it.
Irad, and Johnny V. Right?
They're all deserving. Okay, thank you. Pratt, Irad, Johnny V. You said, Pete.
Yes.
Yeah, I would give it to Flavian in very close call over Irad personally, and I think Junior Alvarado should get like honorable mention because Junior Alvarado, not only is a friend of the show, if you're paying attention at all, the guy's had an unbelievable year and he's winning races very well right now at Gulfstream. And he's at the top of his game. And to not mention him at all on this show, I think would be asinine and irresponsible. He doesn't deserve to win the whole thing because he just doesn't have a high enough win percentage or earnings, etc. But his rides on Sovereignty were absolutely brilliant. And he just had a very good year all year round on a lot of horses. I personally would give it to Pratt. Pete, what say you in this category?
I would give it to Pratt too, but again, I think you could easily make a case for him or Irad. I like Pratt more, so I'm probably clouded a little bit just by a little bit of favoritism because it's such a close race. Like if it was Irad, I wouldn't do that. Rispoli, there we go. Let's keep the Italians. Let's keep the
Italians always got something to say, Pete.
Let's keep the Italians winning, Marco. I love it.
What
was your order, Paul?
It's a 2-horse race, so I think this is the one category where, well, I guess the older sprint that we talked about is cut and dried. That there's 2 of them. Although I think, in my opinion, this is a lot closer than that. I went with Pratt, and I did a real deep dive and try to look at both of them. It really is a coin flip. If it were percentage, I think it's 51-49. I did vote Junior third, Howard. So someone's thinking like, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, Pratt was 25%. Irad was only about 21.5%. I did the math. If I did the math correctly. So again, for me, percentage means more than earnings for the reasons I said.
He also had 400 less starts and only 40 less wins and the same amount of earnings.
Right.
And 13 grade ones. So I think you could easily make that case, right, Howard?
And by the way, I want to also tip my cap to Jose Ortiz, who had the balls and his agent to go down, decide to leave New York outside of the summer and kick some butt in Kentucky in the Fairgrounds, which is that would be a tough move for his family and his ego a little bit as well. Not that there's anything wrong with, Fairgrounds, and of course Kentucky's amazing, but to leave New York and leave his brother, I'm sure was not an easy decision. And he is just riding at the top of his game too. So anyway, Eclipse Awards guides are, correct me if I'm wrong, Tuesday night, I believe, don't quote me, 7:30 Eastern. What is it?
Thursday.
It's going against us.
Oh, is it?
Right?
I'm sorry. Is it?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the ratings are going to be terrible,
about that.
obviously, for the Eclipse.
Okay. Well, our show's we're not running up against the Eclipse. We're going to let the Eclipse do its thing. We're going to be running. I think we have a show after the Eclipse, if I recall, on the calendar. We're not running a show during the Eclipse. We want to know. So Thursday, at the Breakers, West Palm Beach, 7:30.
Oh, Palm Beach. Oh, the people in Palm Beach were very upset with you to call it West Palm Beach. Oh, you're expelled
Palm
from
Beach.
Palm. You're never getting into the Breakers.
Never getting the Breakers anyway. Okay, I think it's 7:30 to 9 on Thursday night. All right, Eastern. All right, guys, let's rock and roll. 2 races at the Fairgrounds. Big day there. We're gonna do this quickly. Lecomte Stakes Day. The Bet and Boozin' boys did a great job last night, guys. I don't know if you watched it. I watched it. They talked about the 4 races before these 2. There's 6 races. The late pick 5 is an all stakes late pick 5. The first 3 races were talked about last night on Bet and Boozin'. Check that out. There's 2 races left to talk about, and they're very good ones. The first one, guys, is Louisiana Stakes, a mile and a 16th. Older males on the dirt, 175,000. Heavy favorite in just a touch. Cox and Ira. This is a horse that's really, the rides I've not been happy with at all in his last 2. 8 to 5. Let's see where we're going here in the penultimate race of the day. at the Fairgrounds. I'm going 817. Pete's going 815. Paul's going 841. We're all going just a touch. Pete, why just a touch?
Well, I think you sort of mentioned one thing is the rides weren't too favorable in the last couple, and now you're going from Giroux to IRAD. And I think the one thing I think just a touch is just a touch better, to use a
nicely
Howard
done.
style pun there. If sitting off, you don't
Where's
like
the bubble?
that one?
Where's
I only get bubbles.
All right.
I like him. I like the opportunity to sit off a bit, and I think he could do that. I think he could maybe sit him right off Willie D, who looks like will most likely be the speed.
Yeah.
And I think that's an advantageous trip for this horse. And then IRAD can just make the move, and then we'll try and hold off whoever we think is also the other competitors. I think the trip and the rider change, and it's just a pretty talented horse who's also 2 for 2 at Fairgrounds and ran, one of his better races, winning by 10 with a 102 buyer here at Fairgrounds, has been working well. There's just a lot to like, and I think the post and the driver change put it right over the top.
Yeah. Oh, driver change. We're going a little harness action. I like it.
I'm a harness boy by heart, so that always comes in.
He better sit off because I think the 7 is going aggressively.
Yeah.
Paul, I liked him in the Met Mile. He was like my sneaky pick in that race. And Drew didn't send. I just don't understand. And then he fell asleep at the wheel in the Monmouth Cup. I'm not going to say anything more negative than that. He just completely fell asleep at the wheel. He's probably better stalking a horse anyway. I'm slightly concerned about the outside post. It's a short run to the first turn, Paul, and the layoff is slightly concerning. But I don't think there's much to say. This horse is clearly the one to beat. I guess Paul, the question is, who do you go for second? You've got a fresh face and Accelerize, who, by the way, I saw work with him in Life and Times. Life and Times is that monster for Pletcher that's like run off the screen. I like Accelerize. Life and Times completely blew by Accelerize on the Gallop out. I wish Life and Times was in the Pegasus, which, by the way, that's next week. And we have major coverage of Pegasus Day here on the HHH Racing Podcast. But I'm assuming you're hoping this is an up-and-comer who can you get a little price underneath with Flavian.
Yeah, that was exactly it. As far as the other horse, Howard, just briefly, I think the distance is a big factor too. I think 1 mile and a 16th is better for this horse. And, the big sin last time, and I covered that race for Mid-Atlantic Magazine, I wasn't there, but after the fact, is only having a half a length lead through a half in 49-2.
Right.
At those fractions, you would like him to be like at 47-2 and have a 5-length lead, but we don't want to dwell on that.
No.
I do think this horse is on the come, as we say in craps, and regardless of that workout with Life and Times, the last workout was obviously good, and this is just the type of horse that Pletcher does well with, moving up into a stakes race. He slots him well. It's the right field. So I think he's a good shot to run second here, but I think it'd be very, very surprising if the 8 loses this race.
I somewhat agree with that. Pete, I was really upset with myself when Moonlight won last time because I liked him at Keeneland and I thought maybe he was regressing. I didn't use him in the Cherokee, and I love Chris Block, as you guys know, an Illinois guy at heart, and he ran huge. I don't know if he's better 1 or 2 turns, but I'm using him in second because I think there is enough speed to set up for a closer. And as much as I liked Sir Graylin last time, who was a spot play and ran huge and got 100 buyer and almost beaten out this boy, Sir Graylin, who you've got third, Pete, got such an absolute dream trip, just rode the rail the whole time. And I think this is a better race than the one he was in last time. So I'm going to go back with Moonlight to finish second. I don't think he can beat Just a Touch, but if they really heat it up, I don't think it's impossible.
No, I agree, and I think I like that Moonlight in this transitive property. Maybe Moonlight beat Not This Boy a couple times, and Not This Boy beat Sir Graylin. So I sort of use that as a little bit of a benchmark. But yeah, I think maybe if like Just a Touch can take Willie D's heart a little bit, and then Willie D starts to fade a little, and then you're going to see one of these other closers coming. And I think Moonlight is in really good form right now. And I think the pace, if there's enough pace, I think he'll be coming. And he's 3 for 3 with Jose and gets Jose again. And Jose seems to ride this horse really well.
He seems to ride every horse very well.
I mean, he does. Yeah. So that's not a bad thing. Yes.
The Lecomte guys, this is a prep for the Risen Star. And my new boy, Paladin, who just is starting to get cranked up down at Payson, is going to run in the Risen Star. So this is sort of a scouting report for me here. And I'm sure some of these horses are going to run in the Risen Star next month, which is even a bigger race than the Lecomte on Saturday. Nice field. There are some horses coming out of the prep race that we'll talk about here. It's a field of 11. Chip Honcho, the 11, won the prep for this race, but it's 9-2 morning line, a very soft morning line favorite. And this is a very difficult betting race and morning line to set. Is actually the Ohio bred Crown the Buckeye, who barely lost the Chip Honcho last time for Maker and Santana. That is the favorite, but you got 6-1, 8-1, 8-1, 8-1, 8-1, 8-1, 12, 10-1, 12-1. I mean, you could make a case for almost everyone in this field. Let's see where we're going here in the Lecomte. I'm going 5-7-10. Pete's going 10-5-11, and Paul's going 7-5-3. So if you are familiar with the last race, a lot of these horses are coming out of, I think it's fair to say, gentlemen, that we are against horses coming out of that race. Pete, let's go to you first. You're going to go with Stop the Car, Brendan Walsh, and Ben Curtis, an overachiever because he was in for a tag, although the tag was 100,000. This horse has done nothing wrong. He does have a bit of an outside post to deal with, but you're going to get a price, and he's honest. And I've got him third, and Paul does not like him necessarily, but I think he's a nice horse. We're going to find out how nice on Saturday.
Yeah, this is one of those races where you could, like you said, you could probably go 5-6 different ways and not sound like an idiot. You can make a pretty good case for all of them. I know I liked his race last time. I thought, and I like the fact just that he's shown the ability to either close from deep. Now, he might be just better than the horses he ran against, but he was able to close from deep, and then last out, he was a little bit closer. I think if he can just break well enough, he can get a similar trip to last time. There does seem to be enough pace in here to where there will be something to run at. He's got some good works on the tab for sure. Since the last one, he's got that 47-2 4 back, and then came back with a nice 1:03 1 at Fairgrounds. So he's got nice works at Fairgrounds, which I like. I also like the fact that in that second race, when he stretched out to routing, and you could see on the screen there's the projected time form. So he's projecting a fast pace, and there should be hopefully some pace to close into. And this one went up from when sprinting to routing. I like the Buyer jump, the time form jumped, and the damn Pussyfoot had 27% winners with dirt routes. So I think routing in general will just benefit this horse, and you saw that last time. So in a race that I think is so wide open, I don't mind taking a shot with an 8-1 price that I think could get lost a little bit in the shuffle because maybe, like you said, coming out of a maiden claimer and then an optional claiming race.
I just don't like the Gun Runner, guys. We're not going to show the replay tonight. The Gun Runner is the race that Chip Honcho won. Visually, I don't think it was special. It was fast early, but it was really slow late. And I got to be honest, guys, the best horse and the horse I bet on that day, not because I bet him, but I think most people would agree, was Liberty National, who got pinched, and I thought there should have been an inquiry. That's all the story. Got pinched badly at the start, lost a few lengths, and almost ran down Chip Honcho anyway. He's not here in this race. I'm guessing Liberty National is being rested up for the Risen Star, although I don't know for sure. But Chip Honcho won that race, and there's a few horses coming out of there Crown the Buckeye, who I was a fast pace, but I don't think wants this distance personally, and not sure he classes up. Quality Mischief actually is slightly interesting, who none of us have. He's coming out of that race also. He's actually the one I would want out of that race. But anyway, we're all with fresh faces. Mesquite is a horse that I know Kyle Roscoe and Patrick Kunzel were looking forward betting last time, and he scratched Paul. This is Flavian Cherie. Cherie could have a monster day at Fairgrounds Saturday, and perhaps riding a bunch from. This is a bit of an immature, goofy horse, but I'll tell you what, he's got major talent, and maybe he can put all together for his first stake win on Saturday. I've got him second. You've got him first.
Yeah, I'll tell you, for a maiden race and second start, the horse didn't break, was last, was climbing. I mean, he looked like a mountain climber in the front stretch going by the first time. Now there were 4 bombs leading the race down the backstretch. They were all over 25-1. So, I'm not positive how good the field was, but, this horse just ran late, and a lot's being made of Jose picking this horse, perhaps picking Golden Tempo over this horse. I like Golden Tempo as well. I thought Golden Tempo also ran huge in his maiden race last time. I have the Cherie Exacta in this race, but
so do I.
I
the other way.
I kind of like those horses. And let me say this about the Gun Runner, Howard. You're probably right about the quality of it, but I mean that 3-horse ran. He went 46-3 for the half. I think if he went 46-4, he wins the race. I mean, he really dug in, and that's a long stretch of Fairgrounds. So
it was just a very slow final quarter, Paul. That's all.
Yeah, it was. They were yes, but I'm just saying that I'm not going to be sure if that horse should happen to get an easy lead with tepid fractions. I'm going to use that horse on the board, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, I like the 7 and 5 here, and I do agree with you, Howard, that I thought Quality Mischief didn't have the best trip and ran pretty well in that last race.
I agree. I've got the 3 as an extreme backup, Paul. I don't mean to give you a hard time. I don't want to get. I'm just choosing others. I'm not going to show the replay of Golden Tempo. Look, guys, this is a tough ask, right? But Cherie's got good numbers. Pete, I don't know if you could pull it up as I'm talking here because I can't recall. It's in the 20 percentile range. Second time going long. I think even in a stake race, Pete, but you can look it up without a stake race too, from sprint to route with a winner. If you can just look that up. I think it's in the 25 percentile or something like that. This horse broke slow, Paul and Pete. Wow, did this horse show a turn of foot? And he's by your buddy Curly out of a Bernardini mare. This horse absolutely wants to go long. It's a big ask, but again, the jockey musical chairs is tricky, Paul. But the fact that Jose chooses here, you would assume over Mesquite, tells me a lot. Now, does that mean he's going to win Saturday? Of course not. This could be a Derby horse. When I say a Derby horse, I'm not saying necessarily win the Derby, but in the Derby and maybe be a real contender in the Derby. This is probably the horse I'm most interested in watching all weekend is the number 5 Golden Tempo. Forget the 8-1, guys. We're getting 4-1. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked, Pete, if this horse is the favorite. I know that sounds crazy. Just remember hearing that. If Golden Tempo is the favorite off an 8-1 line on Saturday, you can remember that I thought that was going to be happening. Pete, before you give your stat and we wrap up the show, I also want to mention Thunderbuck the 6 from Marcus Hirsch is planning on going in this race because he is cross-entered in an earlier allowance race. But according to Marcus Hirsch of the DRF, Thunderbuck the 6 is going here. I don't think he's impossible either. Pete, what's the stat?
By the way, I don't know if this is the exact stat, but you want a second-time starter, sprinter route on dirt in the past year, 7 for 15 wins, 12 for 15 in the money for Cherie on that. It's it's weird because for ones that, let me see, winner last out. No, winner last out, that was a different stat. She was only like 1 for 9, but that's a fantastic stat. So obviously, when she goes, when she does that, she knows what she's doing. Obviously, stretching them out like that.
Clocker reports available through our friends at DRF for Gulfstream and Santa Anita. Every race day, check those out. And last thing, and now I remembered it, guys. I'm sure you would have said it. Anyway, we are 1 week away. We are 1 week away from Team HHH. That's it. You only have 1 week to buy our premium membership. You get over almost 100 tip sheets. You get a whole bunch of stuff. I don't want to. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. I know Matt Miller talked about it earlier in the show. Here we go. That's all you need to know. Team HHH people just eat up the upfront costs. You know that you would have paid that amount anyway over the year. They had access to free tournaments. We got free cash money tournaments where I'm giving the money away. We're giving the money away in these tournaments and other good stuff. No brainer. Go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com for Team
Pete, did anyone have the pick 5 at Tampa in the power picks last week on the caveman play? I think I did.
I think two of us did. Yes, 2 of us did.
You guys did.
You know
Great
what,
job,
though, Paul?
guys.
You know what, though, Paul? In real life, I did not have it because I did not single that 6 horse or whatever in the second leg, and I didn't go 4 deep in the last leg like an idiot. So I only went 3 deep.
I singled the first leg, that 3 horse.
You did.
I was 4 deep in the last race, and boy, do I wish the 10 had won.
Oh yeah. By the way, Fly Fishing Chief said that the number 9 apparently from Hirsch is is not running in Lecomte. So that would knock it down to a field of 10 and then move Chief Honcho in. That's according to Fly Fish and Chief from Market Research. Paul, do you have a rant or anything you want to say here at the end of the show?
No, I think I got it. I was really annoyed by people holding, the whole not betting for, Godolphin clearly on the owner and breeder. It's not because I'm wearing the shirt. Just look at the numbers, people, and they're doing it all with homebreds, by the way.
I agree.
So no, I'm good.
Okay, last thing. If you've never played in Twin Spires contest and you want free money, literally, there's a discount code at the bottom of the screen. We're not going to say it, but if you're listening, go to about the 1 hour, 11 minute, and 30-second mark. You'll see it on the bottom of the screen. That discount code is good for a month. And Pete and Paul, if you have a Twin Spires account and you've never played in a tournament, that's a free $30 right there. Boom. $30 towards any contest. Thanks again to Twin Spires. We talked about in the show last night. Why not? They're great tournaments. They're great contests. There's the discount code at the bottom of the screen. And the last thing, we've got a show starting in 20 minutes, myself and Pete, and it's covering this bet.
It's the first coast-to-coast Pick 5.
An attractive Pick 5 sequence featuring Gulfstream Park.
And Santa Anita Park. Player-friendly 15% takeout.
A $1 minimum. Big pool.
Huge payout. First coast-to-coast Pick 5. Every Saturday and Sunday.
Episode 3 of Wire to Wire coming up live here Thursday in 20 minutes. For my good friends and co-hosts, Pete Visco and Paul Howard, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz. Guys, we are up to episode 450 tonight of Picks and Ponies. Crush your bets at the Fairgrounds this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.